Hi, this is your host. It's 1930 in New York City. An Italian gangster named Giuseppe Joe Masiria sits in his luxurious mansion in Queens. He runs one of the most powerful crime organizations in the world and has earned the nickname Joe the Boss across town. A man in a cheap hotel room gets ready for bed. His name is Charles Lucky Luciano. He is one of Joe's top men. Unlike his boss, Luciano has no money and is deeply in debt. In fact, he owes money to two rival gangsters. Things are about to get very bad for him. He puts on his pajamas, brushes his teeth, and crawls into bed. Suddenly, two men barge into his room. One of them is short and stocky, with a scar across his face. The other one is tall and thin with a sharp nose. Both of them are mobsters who work for the rival gangs that Luciano owes money to. They want their money now. Luciano tries to convince them to wait until tomorrow, but they are not interested. They grab him by the collar and drag him out of the room. Luciano screams for help, but nobody comes. He is all alone. The two mobsters take him down a dark and narrow alleyway between two buildings. Here, several more men are waiting for them. This was a common place for mobsters to settle scores during the Prohibition era. It was away from the eyes of the public and close enough to the many taverns and gambling dens where arguments often broke out. Now, the men form a circle around Luciano. He is scared out of his mind. The short man with the scar steps forward. He takes a pistol from his waistband and puts it to Luciano's head. Luciano had made a lot of enemies during his time as a mobster. Just last week, he had killed a man in a card game after he suspected the guy was cheating. There was also that time when he double-crossed a gang of Irish mobsters and stole their money. They had been looking for him ever since. But who exactly were these men? Luciano's thoughts raced through his mind like lightning. Was this the end? Was he finally going to die? Meanwhile, the men began closing in on him. Some of them had knives, others had clubs. Luciano could see the glint of the weapons in their hands in the dim gaslight. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the worst. At this moment, a car drove past, its headlights momentarily illuminating the faces of the attackers. For a split second, Luciano saw the face of the man driving the car. It was Joe the Boss, his own boss. What was he doing here? Masiria screeched to a halt in front of the men, jumped out of the car, and fired 2 shots into the air. The noise echoed through the narrow alley. All of the attackers froze and slowly backed away from Luciano. One of them dropped his knife. Masiria walked over, picked it up, and handed it back to its owner. "Take this back," he said. "You don't want any part of this anymore." The men looked at each other. They knew they were outgunned. Luciano was Masaria's man now. He didn't stand a chance. Slowly, they filed out of the alley and disappeared into the night. Masiria turned to Luciano and asked what happened here. Luciano explained how he had borrowed money from the other gangs and couldn't pay it back. "That's no way to do things," Masiria said disapprovingly. "You should have come to me first." Luciano apologized and promised it would never happen again. "I know you're a good man, Luciano," Masiria said, "but sometimes you gotta look out for yourself. Come on, let's get out of here." Masiria helped Luciano into the car and they drove off. As the car pulled away, Luciano noticed something. The men from the other gangs had not attacked him because they wanted his money. They were there to kill him. Someone had sent them. Luciano's blood ran cold. Could it be? Was Joe the Boss trying to get rid of him? Did he send those men to kill him? Luciano knew that he had made some enemies over the years, but he never thought that anyone would want him dead. Was Joe behind it all? They drove in silence for a few minutes. Luciano was lost in thought. Suddenly, Masiria stopped the car and turned to Luciano. "Listen," he said, "there's something I need to tell you." Luciano nodded. "I know you're wondering why those men were after you, but the truth is I sent them." Luciano gasped. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you send men to kill me? We work together. I'm your right-hand man." Masiria shook his head. "No, you're not. You haven't been for a long time. I'm sorry, Luciano, but you're fired." To be honest, Luciano wasn't surprised. He had known for a while that his boss wasn't happy with him. He had been arrested twice in the past year, and Masiria wasn't pleased. Besides, Luciano was a known gambler, and Masiria wanted his men to stay away from that life. "But what about the money I owe them?" Luciano asked. "Forget the money," Masiria said dismissively. "You're lucky I didn't have you killed when I found out about it." The two men sat in silence again, but this time it was an awkward silence. Luciano knew that there was nothing he could say to change his boss's mind. He had been fired, and there was nothing he could do about it. After a few minutes, Masiria spoke again. "Here's how it's going to go down," he said. "We're going to meet in 5 days. In the meantime, you're going to go see my friends, the people you owe money to, and you're going to tell them that you've got nothing. Then you're going to disappear. Go someplace far away and don't come back. Do I make myself clear?" Luciano nodded. He knew that there was no point in arguing. He was in too deep. The two men parted ways, and Luciano was left alone in the street. As he walked away, he could hear Masiria calling out to him. "Hey, Luciano, don't forget, 5 days from now, we settle the score." Luciano kept walking. He didn't look back. He was going to disappear and start a new life. 5 days later, Luciano met with Masiria in an old warehouse. The two men sat down in a dark corner, and Masiria's men surrounded them. "So, Luciano," Masiria began, his voice like gravel, "how much money do you owe these guys?" Luciano thought for a moment. "I owe Frankie Castellano $10,000, and the Scar guy $2,000 from me," Masiria said. "And what about the rest?" "Oh, the rest I can't remember." "It doesn't matter anyway," Luciano said, "because I got nothing for you." Masiria's men gasped. "What did you say?" one of them asked. "He said he's got nothing," Masiria said. "That's right," Luciano said. "I got nothing." Suddenly, Masiria stood up. "You think you can double-cross me?" he shouted. "You're dead." His men closed in on Luciano, their fists clenched. They beat him to a pulp.
Ow.
Luciano curled up in a ball on the ground, protecting his head with his arms. Masiria walked over to him and put his foot on Luciano's chest. "This is for the money," he said, kicking Luciano in the ribs. Luciano cried out in pain. All right, I got the money," he said. "Where do you want it?" "In 5 days," Masiria said. "Bring it here, and bring all of your men. If you show up alone, I'll have you killed." With that, Masiria and his men disappeared into the night. 5 days later, Luciano showed up with the money and his men. Tense standoff ensued. After a few minutes, Masiria made a move, grabbed a gun from one of his men, and pointed it at Luciano. "Get on the ground," he shouted. "Now?" Luciano did as he was told. Masiria and his men surrounded him, their guns pointed at him. Suddenly, a shot rang out, and Masiria collapsed to the ground. Luciano looked up to see a man with a gun in his hand. "Get up," the man said, helping Masiria up. "Gotta get out of here." Luciano and Masiria's men opened fire. A wild shootout ensued. The warehouse was filled with the sound of gunfire. Luciano and his men fought their way to the door and escaped into the night. The next day, the police found Masiria's body in the warehouse. He had been shot several times. The case was never solved. Luciano became the new boss. Thanks for watching.